Hi, today we're going to talk about how to do a reverse map of an essay. So usually in order to create an essay, you map it. We're going to talk about how to reverse map it. So before you go any further, make sure you have some stuff. One thing is this thing that says reverse mapping lesson. It's kind of like a little packet. That's what you need. You also need the example essay. It'll say example essay for reverse mapping lesson. Use this one with a video. So make sure you have that. I'll be honest, you might need like a snack or something to drink because this will take a while. This is a huge deal. If you can figure out how to reverse map a piece of writing, you can check your work, you can find holes, you can help with elaboration, you can help other people with their work if someone asks you to help. This is how you check for all the stuff in the first writing domain, which is like the composition, the structure, the elaboration. So be prepared today. And also, honestly, this may take you more than one class period because it just is a pretty intense thing. So make sure you maybe write down where you left off in this video so you don't have to like fast forward the whole thing. Just try it today. Stick with me. We can do this. I'm going to walk you through one and then you do it to your own. So first let's talk about what a reverse map is supposed to be. So the whole point of reverse mapping is to check for all the necessary parts of an essay. People always say, how long does it have to be? And I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of depends how much you have. So we're going to look for our thesis. We're going to make sure it fits and it's organized, and all of this can be done through reverse mapping. P.S. It could also be done through mapping the first time. But if there are problems, this is how you can check. So this point is not to edit. Some of the essays you're going to see today are just actual student essays, and we're not editing them. We're not looking at grammar or punctuation or anything. You are welcome to actually edit anything, ever, always, please. But the point of this is not to edit. The point of this is to check for structure and change the structure. So the strategy that we're going to use is to actually read the essay samples, analyze them, and plug in the sentences into where they should go in the paper. If something doesn't fit, then we're going to circle it and put a question mark. So that means if there's a bunch of sentences but they don't actually match the structure of the flea map, you circle it and put a question mark. And then it's up to the writer to actually change that sentence. Some parts may be blank. If you think about this, if everything were fitting perfectly, you'd have a pretty filled out map. In your essay or the sample essays or your example, some things may be blank because that means there's a problem. And that's kind of how you go back and fix it. So it's okay if it's blank. So if you circle it on the actual essay, you don't put it in the map. So we're going to use the thing that says example essay to practice with, and then for both the sample and the example that you complete, we're going to evaluate them. And that means, okay, so here's my essay, here's my map, here's the holes, evaluate it. Is this good or bad? What's good? Does it have a thesis that works? Is it organized? But maybe they didn't elaborate enough. We're going to check. Evaluate just means to make a judgment. So you're going to come up with a judgment and then suggestions for improvement. Okay? Overall, you're going to turn in your reverse maps, your sample, and your evaluation for a grade. And you're going to staple to it any essay that you use. So if you use the sample essay, you staple that. If you use your own essay, which would be ideal, you staple that. But right now we're just going to try one together. Right now we're going to use this actual example lesson and example essay. So make sure you have that. And let's take it away. I'm going to pause for 1 moment. Okay, so this is a copy of the example essay. And if it looks familiar and it's yours, well, okay, you're a step ahead for when you have to reverse map your own. But don't try to worry about whose it is. We're just going to go look at this and look for the structure. So I can only really show you one piece of paper at a time. You should have on your desk the handouts that look like this, little spool, and the actual essay. So first thing we're going to do is read it. So, everybody would like to wear what they want, and a lot of people would agree on that. I think dress codes should be lessened but not abolished because of individuality, expression, and accessibility. So let's pause right there and look at our introduction, because someone is saying this is an introduction. So this is what your introduction is supposed to have. Your introduction is supposed to have a broad hook statement that's not just your thesis, something to narrow down the statement, and then your thesis. So this one has something, and you need to literally write it just to make sure it fits. So everybody would like to wear what they want. Even if it's maybe not your favorite sentence in the whole world, it is an attempt at a hook, so we're going to put it right there. And a lot of people, so I'm going to kind of underline as I go, so make sure I covered it. And a lot of people would agree with that. So a lot is a little fewer than everybody. And a lot of people would agree on that. And then we have a thesis. I think dress code should be lessened but not abolished because of individuality, expression, and accessibility. So this whole thing is your thesis. If you write really big or you need extra room, you're welcome to write down at the bottom. But yeah, you need to copy it because we're looking to make sure it fits. I think dress code should be lessened but not abolished because of 3 reasons: individuality, expression, and accessibility. Okay, so there's the introduction. It happens to have all 3 things, so not bad. Next, we're going to move on, and this is where you need the flea map. Just a little reminder that we should always go ahead and put our thesis on here to make sure we have our correct thesis. So remind yourself what the thesis should be. And he said, I think dress codes should be lessened but not abolished because of individuality, expression, and accessibility. Now in theory, this means that this first category should be talked about in the next paragraph, and the second category in the next paragraph after that, and the third one in the last paragraph after that. So we'll see what that happens. If that happens, then it's organized. Okay, so individuality is the thing the world definitely needs. Is that our first reason? Yes, it is. So topic sentence, and I'm going to fold this just so I can kind of show you a little bit better. This first topic sentence goes right here. Individuality is a thing the world definitely needs. And that would imply that everything in this paragraph should be talking about individuality. I think schools should have this so you can be your own person. Now, this is not maybe our best sentence because you was your audience, which was a principal, but I'm assuming they mean this, so I think schools should have this because you blah blah blah. Like wearing a sleeveless shirt when no one else is. I'm assuming that that's supposed to elaborate being your own person. So I will point out that that's a sentence fragment. But we're not editing right now. We're looking for structure. Like wearing a sleeveless shirt when no one else is. That's our sentence. Being your own person is an important thing. Individuality. Being your own person is an important thing. That way everyone can be different. So here's the question. Does that give an example of being your own person? And not really. So I'm going to put parentheses right here and put a question mark because that doesn't actually tell me about being my own person. It just repeats it. So if something repeats, it's not elaboration, it's just repetitive. If we can change the dress code, people won't have to play by society's average rules. Okay, so that talks about individuality. So I'm going to say if we change, people won't have to play by society's rules. So up next should be an example of that. Like wearing a hat indoors when you want. Okay. Again, sentence fragment. Not a great sentence, but it is an example of not playing by the rules. So we got that one. Alright, and then next should be a wrap-up sentence. So it's kind of a reverse of this. We're saying something like individuality, we need it, dress code should be individual, something like that. Individuality is the reason why I believe we should lessen the dress code. So individuality is the reason to lessen the dress code. So right now already you should kind of see, okay, if I'm evaluating this paragraph, it has a topic sentence, it has some elaboration. We need to work on our sentence formation, but we need a little more elaboration because anytime you give one example or a reason, you need to elaborate it. It does have a wrap up. All right, paragraph 2. If you need to scooch your paper, that's okay too. Paragraph 2. According to this person's thesis, we're supposed to talk about individuality, expression, and accessibility. This says expression is an important thing. And it's a sentence, so that works. Okay, so one detail to support that is you can show off what you like. and I'm assuming they should say more about what that is. Such as shows, movies, and etc. That's showing off what I like, so such as shows, movies, etc. P.S. Please don't use the word etc. in formal writing. Etc. is like saying, and a bunch of other stuff that I don't want to talk about, but it's your job to talk about it, so don't use that. But anyway. You can also change what people think of you by how you dress. So expression, okay. You can change what people think by how you dress. Like being known for your style. Okay, so here's where we're going to pause and just look at this. Like being known for your style, you can also have your own style. And you only get to say something once. So that goes right here. You can have your own style. And this whole like being known for your style doesn't really fit. So we're going to parentheses and a question mark. You can change what people think of you by your dress, then that should be an example. Like one time I remember I saw blah 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 and it really changed what I thought because she could dress blah. Give an example. You have your own style. That fits. Maybe you could start a trend. That's just repeating what style is. So I'm going to put it right here, but it doesn't tell me any more about my style. And then our wrap-up, it says expression is something I believe should be allowed in the dress code. It's a good wrap-up sentence. Talks about the topic, and it mentions dress code. So expression is, what did he say? Something I believe should be allowed. And I know I write pretty fast. If you need to slow down, just pause me. Okay, so far this paragraph, we might evaluate that it's organized, but it needs actual elaboration. It needs actual examples or stories or something. All right, third paragraph, third body paragraph. Supposedly, according to this thesis, we should be writing about individuality, expression, and accessibility. So let's see. I think dress codes should let accessibility influence the dress code. I'm going to circle this and say, okay, dress codes don't influence, but so I'm going to change it to, I think accessibility should influence the dress code. I think accessibility should influence the dress code. Okay, and accessibility means you can access something. So first thing, it makes clothes easier to get. It makes clothes easier to get. All right. So I need something about it being easier, mainly because more stores have clothes against the dress code. So that would make it not easy, mainly because, and P.S., that's a sentence fragment. But if you said, stores mostly have clothes against the dress code, so if we change our dress code, it would be easier. Okay. Mainly because stores have clothes against it. These clothes are more common in stores is really just elaborating again what I just said. These clothes are more common. Still talking about common clothes. So that goes right there. Like how stores have more short shorts. That's still right here. Because I'm still talking about it being easier to get. I said close, more close, close. That's all still one detail. You don't have to buy any more. I'm assuming that would be a detail. If it's accessible, you don't have to buy them. Okay. You can keep wearing the clothes you got in the summer. I'm going to say you can keep wearing summer clothes. And then the last sentence says accessibility makes it easier on people. So is that a detail? Is that a wrap-up? And accessibility was our topic sentence, so it goes up here. Accessibility makes it easier on people. I'm assuming it is the dress code. We should probably say dress code. So look at this, and what we have is a little bit of a gap as far, and you don't have to always have 3 things, but you should probably have at least 3 reasons for the thing you're saying, or it's probably not strong enough. All of these should support this with actual examples and details. All right, last up in the essay is what we're going to assume is a conclusion. And by the way, you might run across an essay that does not actually have a conclusion, in which case you still need to evaluate that. Or if the conclusion were one sentence, or if it was terrible, you still evaluate it. So we're supposed to have a transition word like in conclusion or something. So that's missing. And then restate our thesis in probably 2 sentences. The thesis for this, if you go back to the front, was I think the dress code should be changed but not abolished because of blah blah blah. I think dress codes are overused in society. So this is a perfectly lovely sentence, but it's not a thesis. So that wasn't the thesis. This essay doesn't say anything about dress codes being overused, so that can't be the thesis. A lot of people think dress codes go too far. So that might be a sentence like here, because he was talking about letting up on something. Maybe it was going too far. So a lot of people think dress codes go too far. Please consider decreasing the dress code while not abolishing it, while making it easier on families. So this is kind of your point. If you're being persuasive, you should say, like, please consider something, decreasing, and that's kind of like the thesis. The dress code while not abolishing it. Though while making is awkward, so I'm going to say to make it easier on families. And then I'm going to circle this right here and say that you can't just add new reasons at the end. So this doesn't fit because you haven't said anything about making things easier on families the whole time. This should be to make a point, like one final punch, one last little because it needs to be awesome. There's your point. So we're kind of missing that. So overall, if we look at our map, we can say this was a problem, this was here, this was kind of like half problem. So pretty good intro. Conclusion needs a little work to meet unity. If you look at your flea map, Wrap-up sentences were good. We had that. Topic sentences were pretty good. Some elaboration and details are missing. So here's the final job. For this lesson, what was well done? It does have a thesis that's organized. It is organized because it sticks to the thesis. The introduction was pretty good. What needed work? And look for your holes. Elaboration needs work. And we want to add specific details. Some sort of stories. There's some really good word choice in this thing, which is not really what we're talking about today, but the word choice is enhanced by the more details and specific stories you have. The conclusion needs work because of unity. And I'm going to say sentence structure because one thing we check for is to make sure your sentences actually say what they mean. So what would you suggest? This person comes to you and they're like, what do I do with this? Okay, so where do you start? One way to add to enhance structure and organization or elaboration is to do a flea map, to add details and stories, and to just make sure you make a point based on your thesis. If all of this were good to go, then the map would pretty much be full. Maybe someone would go back and edit, but that's a whole different skill. And overall, this wasn't terrible. It's not bad. Some of you, when you map your own, may realize, like, wow, mine really could have looked like that. Some of you may look at this one and say, well, mine was a little better, but his intro was better. Whatever it is, I just want you to think about overall, there's always something well done, and there's always something we can improve, and that's the kind of beauty and the curse of writing. So here's the plan. Now that you've tried it with yours, or with this one, you're going to try it with your own. Hold 1 second. Okay, so this is the part where you might need to like pause and get a little snack or something. This is the part where once you show one of us your actual work, you got to take it a step further. It's easy to copy stuff off a video. I want you to be able to apply it to your actual writing. So you need a couple things. You need this, which says practice with yours or sample. So you're going to do the same thing. If you want the sample, it's in the back. It's just a random sample. It might be yours. So if it's yours, cool, practice with it. I did change a couple typos just to not distract. Or you may use your actual essay. And honestly, that might be uncomfortable, but that's okay because you should be revising your essays anyway. So this is a really good way to check and make sure you're actually revising in a way that's helpful, not just like getting someone to edit your paper. That's not helpful. So all of you who turned in an essay are getting back the actual essay with the scoring rubric and all that stuff, and you're going to reverse map that. Or this one, if you're feeling shy, I don't know. Just try it, and if you get stuck, ask for help, because this is not always easy the first time, and sometimes it's hard to be critical of ourselves. It's hard to look at a sentence and say, man, I thought that was evaluation or elaboration, but it's not really elaboration. It doesn't fit right here. I need to circle it and question mark it and put it somewhere else. So it's okay, because then you can evaluate it and actually fix it. So this sucker right here, with this, reverse map practice, overall you're going to evaluate it, and I think you're going to learn a lot. Just dig in, get a little dirty, ask questions. We're here to help.